Well, hi folks, this is Darren with My RV Works. We just recorded a video where I do an inspection on an RV that Sid and Tricia just purchased. Sid and Tricia work in our company. We're all together as a big family here. And that video turned out to be really, really long. So we decided to break that up into two parts. So this first part, we're gonna basically meet Sid and Tricia, and we're gonna meet the RV that they just bought. And then we're gonna do an intro for the whole outside of it. And I think that will be where we'll cut it. And then we'll pick up part 2 of this video where we do the whole inside. And because we did go into quite a bit of detail on some of this kind of stuff. So without any further ado, let's go meet Sid and Tricia and their new addition, Poppy. Hi folks, this is Darren with My RV Works. We have some very special guests to share with you today on this video. This is Sid and Tricia, okay? If you've been watching any of our videos since around early 2022, very late 2021, Sid here is the one that's been doing all the editing and the graphics and all this kind of stuff. So yay for Sid. And if you've reached out to My RV Works in an email and a text message, you've been a customer of ours, you've been coordinating with Tricia. Tricia's on the front line. She's the one that's answering the phones, or emails, or text messages, and putting all the schedules together. So there are employees. We love them, they're family, so they went camping with us recently, and from that experience I think they got infected. So
sure did.
Yeah. So they went out and bought an RV from us. Now, you grew up in Guam. Is RVing big in Guam?
I don't think so. Okay. I don't know. I don't remember anybody having an RV growing up.
So the RVing was like, what is this thing?
Yeah.
And then you're in Idaho, so they're everywhere.
Despite growing up in Idaho, I've never RV'd before.
Oh, that's interesting. But you see them all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so what inspired you at this point in your life? What inspired you to get an RV?
Well, like I said, we went camping with you, and then and I was surprised that this sardine can of a trailer turned into such a big space, and so I was just impressed with, like, you could go camping and have a covered space to walk around in and hang out in, and there was plenty of room despite it looking so small.
So our big, giant, huge Class A $1 million diesel pusher inspired you to get... No. No, we went camping in a pop-up camper, and it's a fun one. So they had one wing and we had the other wing. And so that's what inspired them for. So our little sardine thing, it opened up really big. So the whole sardine can thing inspired you. You know, how it could be like a little suitcase, and then you open the whole thing up and it just like becomes Barbie's playhouse with all the wings and everything opening up. They are really huge. I'm surprised. On that note, what inspired me to get our pop-up camper is I'm used to working on fifth wheels and travel trailers, and all of a sudden I did a couple customers that had the pop-up camper. And I don't have much experience with pop-up campers, and I'm like, wow, And our little Sienna van could tow it, the Jeep could tow it, your Xterra could tow it, so small little things. So what was it about this one that inspired you to want to get a pop-up camper over all the other hard walls types, the kind you drive? Why this one?
Yeah, well, it really checked the boxes that we were looking at.
Okay.
So it was affordable, it was in our price range. It actually doesn't come with any systems, which we wanted manageable systems. And so there's a few systems that we'll add into it, but we didn't want anything that was too overwhelming since we're brand new RVers.
Okay.
And then I think, just like Sid said, the space, it's enough space for us to go camping with, but not like so crazy that as first time RVers, we're not overwhelmed with the amount that we have to tow.
The slide room, the this, the that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Good. So we're liking the pop-up camper idea because if it's small, there's not a lot of systems on these things. Okay. Now, Sid, having grown up in Idaho, like you mentioned, you've seen them. What do you plan on doing with RVing? What's your end in mind with these things?
I like to travel, and I just envisioned like this would be nice to have, and we could take it to go visit my folks. They live in Idaho, and
Yay.
and of course I've always wanted to go to a bunch of national parks, so that'd be cool to take it to those, and of course we can always continue to go camping with you guys.
Yay! So, that's always fun.
Yeah.
So when you guys reached out to me and you said that you had found an RV, I came over and had a look at it. And so on site and the customer's backyard, we kind of did a very quick PDI or an inspection. This RV, we knew going in eyes wide open, it didn't have a refrigerator, didn't have a furnace, didn't have a water heater, didn't have a lot of systems. And so it was really simple, very basic, which I think is perfect for you guys. And as a side note, we're going to be adding furnaces and water heaters. And then this is Poppy. They've given it the name Poppy. Poppy will have her own playlist, Poppy's Playlist. And then you can follow along and watch Poppy get resurrected and become a big Class A diesel pusher. Big fifth wheel with toy hauler We're going to modify. No, you see what I'm saying though. So for you guys, it's perfect. It reached your price point. We went through, eyes wide open. You were able to negotiate a little bit with the gentleman that was selling it and saying, look, it's missing this. The tires are like 20 years old and all these kinds of things. And so we were able to identify that up front. You guys were able to take that information and help work with the selling point, buying point, and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so what we're going to do now is we're going to redo this inspection. Now, on a side note, I know that there's going to be probably a few of you guys watching that are certified RV inspectors, and you're going to kind of like, well, Darren, you didn't do this. Darren, you didn't do this. Darren. Okay. This is, again, like I said, this doesn't have half into the systems on it that normally one would have. So we just kind of start at the front. Now, when I worked at a dealership, I don't know how many, literally hundreds of PDIs that I did. I got really good at them. And so when you're doing the PDIs, you kind of make it a linear process. And so when I do that, I like to start in the front right-hand corner and work my way around the whole outside perimeter and then go on the inside. If it was an RV that had a refrigerator, air conditioner, things like that, this thing doesn't even have any tanks on it. So if I was going to do a real inspection, the first thing I would do was plug it in and start the refrigerator, start the air conditioner, fill up the tanks, do some flood testing on that kind of stuff. And then while the refrigerator and the air conditioner are taking their hour or so to get something going on, I'm working away the outside perimeter. So I do have a very linear process. And so yeah, what we're going to do is we'll start doing the thing. So I'm excited for you guys. I know for us, we bought an RV and it was always going to be some temporary thing, and we fell in love with RVing. We fell in love with the places we could go. Is there any particular spot that you have in your heart that you can't wait to go visit?
Well, I want to go to Moab,
Okay.
so that's kind of been a place for me.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm sure there's plenty of places I could say. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Yosemite.
Okay.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Go there, see the stuff, yeah. Now, I heard you mention Moab. If you're a Neil Stephenson fan in the book Fall or Dodging Hell, Moab blew up in a nuclear explosion, but it turned out to be a false. So if you're a Neil Stephenson fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And there's bumper stickers. Remember Moab?
No.
Neil Stephenson, Cryptonomicon,
No.
Snow
Never.
Crash. No?
Never read it.
Neil Stephenson's all guy. So yeah. So anyway, you mentioned Moab, and it was nuclear-rated in the book.
The fans will know.
But yeah, they needed to crash the internet and then bring a brain back to life. So anyway, I'm not going to ruin the book. Go read the book. So I'm excited for you guys. Inspiring to work with Poppy. I'm looking forward to making her own playlist. She deserves her own playlist, and then we'll just start slowly adding things to her. Yeah, so let's get started on the what are we doing on this thing again? An inspection?
The PDI.
Yeah, the PDI. How do you spell that? Because on our thing it's PID. Hey, I'm dyslexia. I love you. Okay, just go with it. All right, guys. Well, thanks for Sid and Tricia, and thanks for getting Poppy so we can make a playlist out of it and kind of sow value into you folks as you kind of follow along with Darren's kind of. I want to stress again, if you're an RV inspector, you're going to say, well, Darren, you didn't do this. But again, I want to. There's no systems on this thing. Okay, so anyway, all right. Enjoy the show. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so let's start our journey on the very front where we're going to connect into the vehicle. I see this is a 1 7/8 ball. I'm going to feel this, make sure this is operating. Now, let me just pause for a second because I do have a PDI sheet that you can follow along on. This RV is kind of simple and I've done a whole bunch of these things. So personally, I'm not going to sit here with a clipboard and a PDI sheet. If you want that PDI sheet, you go to our website, myrvworks.com. You're going to navigate over to the resources tab and you're going to find the one where we have manuals. And what we found, there's a typo. I don't know if we fixed it yet by the time you watch this, but you're going to do a search in that little search bar for PID or PDI, okay? So either PDI or PID, it's dyslexic on my part. Pre-delivery inspection, PDI. Pre-delivery inspection is what the PDI stands for. But you're going to be able to pull up some PDI sheets, okay? So you can go print that sheet out. It's available for you. It's a PDF. You can download it, and I don't remember how many pages it is. But you can follow along on your RV of choice, but I'm just going to go through this and just kind of talk out loud as I make a discovery on things that I find, okay? So that's what's going on here. Now, well, actually this says 2-inch ball, so I said 1 7/8. It's actually a 2-inch ball. A lot of times on these tongues are stamped onto this tongue. It'll actually say that. It might be good if you're going to pick up your RV to make sure you have the right ball to mate with your hitch here. Okay, so this feels good and healthy. I like this. I'd like to see a little bit of lubrication in there. Here's our breakaway cable. First of all, it's kind of loose. On your breakaway cable, you do not want this thing to be super, super tight. You do want it to be a little bit of play in it, but you do not want your breakaway cable to be embedded and entangled in with all your other cables. This is basically rendering this worthless. So one of the things we'll be doing is installing a new breakaway cable. What I like to do is mount the breakaway cable a little bit farther back and connecting it directly to the frame of your tow vehicle. We've done a video on these before. You do not want to have your breakaway cable entangled in with your chains. You don't want it to have anything to do with the hood, the ball, or anything, because visualize this receiver hitch. If you forgot to put your pin in it and that pin, the main pin falls out, your receiver slides out, your ball comes unscrewed. We've seen all these things, guys. This thing's going to start taking off on you. When you do your chains, these chains look good. When you do your chains, you're going to want to make a crisscrossy pattern out of your chains. And so you're going to be hooking them onto your tow vehicle like this. And the reason you want a crisscrossy pattern is because these are hooked onto the frame of the vehicle. And if it falls, it's going to kind of catch it like a cradle. If we were to do our chains like this and it falls, it's going to be digging into the asphalt. So it's always good to crisscross your chains, okay, and make sure that when you make your turns that there's enough slack in your chain and you're not like pulling your chain and making it weaker. These look fine. I don't have a problem with these. We might make them a little bit longer. When we towed this vehicle here, this one, you see that they're a little bit different in length. This one was a little bit too tight when I would make a left-hand turn, so we actually took this off and just went with this one. We didn't go very far, a couple miles, so it wasn't a big deal. But that, you know, a catastrophic thing could have happened there. So we are going to be putting a new breakaway here, and the chains themselves look good, but we might make them a little bit longer. Okay, so that's what we see here. This was the breakaway cable. I don't know, it's just kind of Mickey Moused on here. We want this breakaway cable to be connected to the frame and the tow vehicle. It's your safety. If something were to happen in this part right here, it's a breakaway cable that'll pull out. Okay, it's going to pull out. Here's the pin that pulls out of the breakaway cable. Inside of this thing, we've just made a contact closure, and we pulled out of the battery power here, and we're engaging the brakes on the trailer. We're locking them up. Full 12-volt power going to the brakes just to stop this trailer from going down the mountain. Okay, put that back in. Now I've opened the contacts back up, denying the brakes of having power again. If you were to do that, don't leave it on, because you'll A, drain your battery, B, I don't think the brake pads like to get 12 volts constantly forever. So do it to test, but to put them back in. Other things I'm looking at is a 7-way connector here. Now this one's nice. It's got a little bit of a light show for us, tells us the blinker. So that's kind of a nice feature that came on this. I'm looking for any corrosion or anything. A lot of times it'd be good to put dielectric grease in here where you're going to plug it into your 7-way on your vehicle. Looking at this, it goes into the frame and disappears, so I guess it goes inside. I see some wiring here that is kind of questionable. It's just been in the sun for a long time and kind of corroded and kind of powdery. I'm not sure what this goes to. Obviously, white is a ground. Okay, so white is the only ground. And black, oh, well, see, there's a problem right there. This, I didn't put much pressure on it, but it broke free from the terminal that it's under right here. So there's a problem right there. Honestly, I would like to see a little bit of a larger wire gauge here. I'd go with at least a 10 gauge for an RV like this when you're running all of your interior lighting and all this kind of stuff. Your furnace, this one doesn't have a furnace. But I'd like to see at least at the minimum a 10 gauge wire. This is more of a 14 gauge wire. And they've got another little Mickey Mouse connection right here. Ah, see here, what's that? That pulled right out. So in our inspection, we're finding loose wires. Okay, so what this would have caused is you would not have any lights inside the RV because of this loose wire. Even if we wouldn't have pulled it out, it would have been a very loose connection. Okay, so that's something we found in our inspection. And here's the other part of where this hood was on our connector right here. I'm not even gonna worry about it. So I'm looking at this wiring and it looks like, I just don't like this wiring here. There's some corrosion here. So I would say that this wire that feeds the RV, this wire is going to go to the converter in this RV. I would like this wire to be a little bit of a larger gauge, and I would like it to be a little bit newer, more flexible. It's been in the sun for a long time, and it's the jacket on the wire is starting to get a little powdery and crunchy. And then these connectors, there you go. These connectors are, look at this, are very suspect. So in our inspection, we're finding some things in the wiring that are just not as clean as they could be. So we're going to clean that up. It looks like at one point it may have had, nope, this one never did have a tongue jack, even though there's holes for it. All this is welded together, so it looks like they have this one here. Now on the crank, this is seized. This whole crank, I've lubricated it when we were picking this thing up, and we could not get this to turn. So inside of here, it's probably because of rust. So we'll squirt some penetrating oil in there to see if we can get this to free up, and just let it sit for a day or two just to kind of see if we can get this handled or to clear itself. But it's seized. So that was something that we noticed. And look, guys, we're not even a foot into the thing, okay? I told you it'd be a good show. So we talked about our hitch, we talked about the tow vehicle thing, our chains, breakaway cable, 7-way connector. We talked about some battery connections. Now, a lot of times what I'll do on a battery, I'm just gonna drop this inside, is I will do a health inspection on the battery. And so they've got a couple different of these out on the market. This is the one I go with. You could use the hydrometer. I go with this because some of the batteries are maintenance free and you can't get a hydrometer on those things. You can't, you know, suck up the juice. So we'll just go plus to minus. Okay, that turns on. Meanwhile, now on an RV like this, there's absolutely no reason for you to have a, what you want on an RV like this is a deep cycle battery. Pure deep cycle. You're not going to benefit from anything that has cold cranking amps written on this thing. So this one is a marine battery. So marine battery, this is the kind of battery you might put on your boat because you're going to run your running lights and you're also going to run your trolling motor, and you might even need to start your engine. So here we have a marine battery, which is a hybrid between a deep cycle and a starting battery. You're not starting anything on this RV. So if this battery's bad or you need to get a replacement battery, sure, you can get a marine battery, but you're only going to buy half of a battery in that case, because you're never, ever, ever going to use the cold cranking amps portion of this battery. The plates are thinner. What you want is a deep cycle, okay? So because this is a marine battery, it does have a reference to cold cranking amps on it. So I'm going to look, and it's going to say cold cranking amps at 0 is 550. So I go over here. I can tell right now my battery is at 12.7 volts. It's a 12-volt system. It's out of vehicle. It's out of vehicle because I've disconnected the wires on it. Top post, it's a regular battery. Cold cranking amps, 550. So I'm just going to let this thing evaluate it. It's going through its deal. And it's going to tell me that it is, it's in actually good shape. So the state of health on this battery is 88%, and the state of charge is at 100%. So the battery state of health, I'm going to give it a B+. It's at 88% health. And we could pop off the caps. And what do we put inside of these batteries altogether? Distilled water only, please. I prefer the bottled water that has the right pH for me, but that's poison to these batteries. It doesn't want all that. It doesn't want all the mineral additives and all that kind of stuff. It just wants pure unadulterated distilled water only, nothing else. Distilled water is all we're going to put in these batteries, not tap water, nothing like that. So the battery's good. Like I said, I give it a B+. You could get another couple years out of this thing. It's fine. What we could do is we could do what's called a battery, reclaiming a battery or something. Because so sulfation starts to build up on the plates, and basically we could cook it off. It's called a nickelization. There's another thing we call it. It takes about a week. And I've got a meter in there, a charger that'll basically bring this battery from the 88% health back up to about 90, 95. So we could reclaim the battery. So I like the battery in a battery box. It's nice. I just want to see these wires a little bit bigger because we're going to be running a furnace in here and lights. So let's just run a bigger wire. It's not like you're going to drive a big tractor trailer truck and you're going to go down a little farm road, or you're going to go down a highway. Let's run that tractor trailer truck down a highway. The highway would be the bigger wire. Okay. So now we are going to work our way over here to the propane cylinder. This cylinder, there's going to be a date code on it. It's probably going to be on this ear back here. All propane cylinders have date of manufacture on them. In the United States, these cylinders are good for 12 years from date of manufacture. After that 12 years, they need to be recertified, and then there'll be a sticker on them that says E with the recertification credentials on it. Then at that point, they're good for 5 years, and every 5 years you have to recertify it. Every 5 years, every 5 years, every 5 years. In Canada, your cylinders are good for 10 years. In the United States, they're good for 12 years from the date of manufacture. Canada, 10 years from the date of manufacture. Then you go get it recertified, and it's another 10 years, and then another 10 years. So Canada, every 10 years you recertify your cylinders. United States, 12 years is what you get right out of the gate, and then 5 years, 5 years, 5 years, 5 years. So on these cylinders, I'm going to be talking about this regulator here in a sec. Oh, there's another thing right here. There we go. So I'm looking for the date code on this thing. Okay, 10 of 14. So this cylinder was manufactured in October of 2014. So it's 9 years old. Okay, so 9, 10, 11, 12. We have another 3 years before this cylinder needs to be recertified. Okay, so if I was going to be filling this out and you were hiring for doing an inspection, we would be documenting that the cylinder is manufactured 10 of 14 and you're given 12 years from this date until you have to recertify it. Okay, I don't see an E sticker on it. It looks like a good cylinder, no problem. Now, and I don't think that, who made this one? Like you get these Amerigas or Blue Rhinos or stuff like that. So if your cylinder's getting old and it's just one of these size cylinders, you can basically go and swap it out and take, I don't think everybody does this. It's not like a secret. Take your old cylinder and swap it out for one of their new cylinders and they can recertify them. Okay, so like, I think everybody knows that. So there's the cylinder. It feels like it's got some fuel in it. There's lots of ways to determine how much fuel you have in your cylinder. You could float it in water. It's kind of a fun one. If you want to take this thing off and get a bucket of water and float it, it'll bob where the liquid is. Another thing you could do is you can pour hot water on it, and then you can feel where it's cold and hot. The tank will be warm and the other thing will be cold. There's all kinds of sensors. I have one where you hold it to the side of the tank and it shoots sonar or whatever into it. They've got the kind that stick to the bottom. You can weigh the cylinder. There's on the side here, it's got tare weight. Right here, how much the cylinder itself weighs. So there are lots of ways to determine if you have a fuel in your cylinder or not. I promise you I'll be doing a whole nother video just on propane because I love it so much. It's very exciting to me. So now let's talk about this regulator. This regulator is obsolete, and per law, per code, this regulator needs to be changed out. This is a regulator from about, I don't know, the early 90s. It is a two-stage regulator, but it does not have the new Acme screw. This is the old POL type, where POL was the name of a company. I don't remember the name of the company's name, but we just know that it's put on left, okay? So that means the threads are going to go inside the Acme screw portion, and they're going to turn on leftwards, okay? So these regulators are obsolete, old. They do not have all the safety features in them that the newer ones do. So this regulator will be an automatic fail. We will need to upgrade this regulator to make it comply with our new DOT requirements here, okay? So there's no point in even, we can, adjust it. That might be kind of fun. But, and another thing that we might do with this regulator here is basically maybe dissect it. Would be a fun thing, and see what we'll take a brand new regulator and dissect it, and take this regulator and dissect it, and that'd be kind of fun. But another thing I noticed about this regulator, this vent hole is aiming kind of this way, and the vent needs to aim down, okay? Why? Because on the other side of this vent, you have a butyl rubber diaphragm thing that's breathing. So think of this as a seesaw, okay? And it's seesawing. There's a lever, and on one end of the lever, there's a thing called a seat, which is a teeny tiny little orifice where the LP goes through this small little orifice. And then you set the thing, you unscrew this. You have to have a manometer to set this thing. It's kind of like, hey, Darren, go put air in my tire. I want 65 pounds of air. Well, okay, let me just take an air chuck and fill it in. That looks about right. No, you need an air chuck. You need a gauge, a tire gauge. Well, that's how I know I got 65. And then so on an RV, it's the same thing. You need a manometer, and it's going to tell you how much pressure you have in your lines. We want 6 ounces of pressure, and on our parlance, we call that inches of water column. So you want 11 inches of water column is the same thing as 6 ounces of pressure. But we want this to be angled down because there's a butyl rubber diaphragm in here, which is one end of the seesaw, and it needs to be open to the outside air. So as you go up in altitude, down in altitude, as the temperature changes, as pressure changes, all these things, that rubber can breathe, and it's adjusting that seat on the other side of the seesaw to keep you with 6 ounces of pressure into your coach to feed all of your appliances. So if that was clogged up, guess what? The seesaw's not working. What is that going to get clogged up with? Mostly water or moisture or dew or anything like that. So you want this angled down. I can't even turn it, so it drips out. Okay. What will really be happening, which is really bad, is if it's cold and rainy and it freezes, and then you have ice inside of here, that will lock up this regulator maybe in the wide open position, and then now it's not regulating anything, and you got full unadulterated propane going into your RV. So let's keep our vents angling down. Let's keep our covers on them. okay? Got to have our cover on it, okay? So if you have a regulator and it looks like that, no cover, shame. You need a cover for it, not have a cover. We're going to be replacing this regulator because it's the old kind. Also, the newer ones have like gas ports on them that you can test. Now, one thing I noticed that's interesting. Okay, so here's a little interesting tidbit. I just noticed this just now. This is kind of fun. So this RV, we're going to stay on propane for a little bit longer. This RV has an outside grill over on the side. It's got an outside kitchen, okay? And a lot of you are going to go buy your BBQs and all those things, and you're going to put them on your RV because you have a little LP tap on the outside of your RV, and you're going to tap into it, and you're going to say that this thing doesn't work. The reason it doesn't work, like if you were to go, I'm going to pick on BBQ because I have one. So the BBQ, Weber BBQ grills, okay, they want to get a cylinder like this. They're going to have their own little pigtail come into it. And it's going to have a black knob that screws into the Acme screw part here, and it's going to connect to your BBQ little regulator thing. Notice I said black knob, right? And then that regulator for that grill is going to be, I don't know the numbers, but pretty high. Okay, but all of a sudden you take that exact same grill and you put it on your RV with your quick connect and all this kind of stuff in your outside kitchen, the grill doesn't work. Just a pathetic, weak little flame. Well, that's because you're going through this regulator right here. And remember I said this regulator breaks it down to 6 ounces of pressure, 11 inches of water column, and that Weber grill wants a lot more than that. And so what they've done here is something I like to see. They've tapped off of this hose right here directly out of the cylinder, and this hose right here directly feeds the outside grill. So your grill, your Weber BBQ, would work just fine. But if you came off of this side through this regulator on this side and they tapped this over there, then it wouldn't. Now, they do have some aftermarket adapters that you can upgrade all these different grills. Most of the manufacturers have them. And so if you had the Weber BBQ or whatever like that, you could get these, MEC makes them, and it's just an adapter. You just take off the regulator off of their grill and put theirs on, and then you can work it off of your RV lower pressure side. So I did see 2 hoses and I'm like, what's up with that? But this one says outside and it looks like it goes right back to that back corner where the grill is. So that's kind of a neat feature. When we upgrade this, we might even keep that. I don't know. I'll talk to Sid and Tricia and see what kind of outside grill they want. But that's what's going on with this. So we know this has failed because it's obsolete, because I believe in 98 or early 2000, they changed these and they have a new law on what is allowed, and this one is not allowed. The RV is a 92, so it was right at the end of the era of these. If you go back another 10 years, then you will see copper tubing connected to these, and that's even worse still. Now, this is a 2-stage regulator. We don't know what this pressure is. It could be anywhere up to 375 PSI. I'll mention one more thing about propane cylinders, and we'll move on with our inspection. You have this blow-off port on the back side right here. So you have your little 3 cloverleaf with the tamper-resistant screw. That's how you know the cylinder is a newer cylinder, okay? Some of you have the lobed kind. That's the old cylinder, and that's obsolete as well. So you have the tri-lobed handle with the tamper-proof screw. This is the new cylinder, okay? This is the old regulator. But on the back side of it, this little hole right here, if this cylinder gets over 375 PSI because it's sitting in a baking hot sun, and they'll do this, it'll gas off a little bit to give it some pressure. And so what you don't want is you don't want this cylinder aiming at your RV, okay? And so for those of you who have travel trailers and things like that where the cylinders are all the way in the front, and maybe you have an auto changeover, you want the auto changeover mounted in the back side of these two, and you want this vent aiming out the front. So if it is really hot on a southern hot summer sunny day, well, that's a mouthful, and this thing does vent out, it's venting out away from your RV, not towards your RV. Okay. Also, this guard is called a rock shield, and I can't turn it because this is all in the way. So when we put the new one on here, we're going to kind of make it so that it fits right. But we want this so that the rock shield is facing forward. So if you're, going or something, a rock spits up, it's not going to hit this. This is protected behind the rock shield. Okay, so good information on that. So we're good there. We know our date on our cylinder. We know this is obsolete. I'm just going to make a pile of bad things. So we've looked at our battery. We've gotten a B+ on our battery. Our cylinder's got another couple years on it. This has got to be replaced. And so I am going to start working my way around this corner. We know this is seized up, okay? And so let's start working our way around the corner. I'll pick up my mess. Normally, if I was doing this, I would clean up as I go, but we'll just keep on moving. I'm going to look at, this is called a vinyl insert. It's kind of hard and cracky. If we were to pull this vinyl insert out, we would see all the screw holes, okay? And behind the screw holes is going to be like a butyl tape. And so I would like to see a new piece of vinyl insert installed here. This one's got a crack in it. And so that means water could get inside of here into the screw holes. But like I said, there's going to be a piece of butyl tape that runs the length of this. Butyl tape is that like putty tape that never hardens. And so I think you're good on there. But one thing we do know is on the inside of this RV, there is some water damage in the ceiling. Okay, and so when I see this crack right here, that it might be that. Looks like they tried to putty this up, and some things like that. So I'm looking at whatever this is. It's kind of sticky. So this thing was sitting in a hot sun, probably down south somewhere. Sid and Tricia, I believe, are the 4th owners of this. So we don't know the whole history on this thing, but we're going to bring it back to life, right? So we'll basically be cleaning up some of this stuff and resealing the roof. I'm sure we'll make a video on Darren's version of resealing things. So I also noticed that it's got a gutter track here for an outside awning. We could do a bag awning that would slide the bag awning in. We just need to get the dimensions. This little screw would come out. You'd slide your bag awning on. The screw goes back in to hold it in place, and then you can have an awning. Now it looks like, now the gentleman said that there used to be like a toilet or a shower inside, and this was something that he put over this to because they took that out. And when we get inside, we'll take a look at that. And so that's just a cover for that. But so this would be the door. Now I'm going to peek underneath real quick. Pardon me. And it looks like, okay, we got a landing leg here, which we could bring down. And I'll crawl underneath here. I see some rust, but not a lot of rust. Nothing. This thing is like 30-something years old, so I don't see a lot of rust that alarms me at all. But there is a little landing leg that kicks out. So we might play with that, make sure it works really well and all this kind of stuff. Okay, so moving along, let's open up this door. This door becomes the step. And let's see which keys are going to be. There we go. Okay. So the door becomes a step, and we found out that underneath here is a crank handle we're going to use to raise it up. So I'm working on down. It looks like I'm not liking some of these screws. Water can wick its way down inside. Again, I don't like this vinyl insert, so we'll be replacing the vinyl insert. This looks like it's pretty stout. Maybe we could take this off, maybe sandblast it and paint it or something. These are aluminum, but this looks steel. It's kind of rusted. We're going to reseal the whole roof. That would be on a GFCI. Let's get our keys again. So as you see, I'm working my way down. Now these tires, we've already looked at the tires. Normally I would look for a date code on the tire, but when I see that it's dry rotted and cracked right here, it's pointless for me to like write down what the date code is, because what's the point? The tire's cracking. So we know we need new tires. Okay. Now when we drove it here, not many miles, I always like to put my hand on these things, and this was kind of warm. So it definitely is going to benefit from a repacking the bearings in here and maybe checking brakes and all that kind of stuff. So we'll be doing that. That's another thing we'll be doing. We'll do a video on that. We'll raise it up, take the wheels off, and check all this kind of stuff. And probably just bring the tires into Les Schwab or something and have them bind a tire. And the spare tire is flat. It's up underneath. We've already looked at the vat. So we know we need new tires. Okay, we just needed to get it here. And but yeah, that cracked. If we were going to go down the highway, I'm pretty sure that would blow out pretty soon. But so yeah, we got some tire problems there. So moving on out. Now you see I'm just very linear. I'm going myself around. This right here, I'd love to see a cap on this to keep the debris out of it. On our it looks like it had one, but it broke off. So this is where that propane that's directly from the cylinder comes to. I would love to see this with an on-off valve and a cap to keep this clean and basically be able to turn this off. Because if something fouls this out, it's directly connected to that cylinder. It'll just start pouring out of here. Like that is to say, if that service valve on that cylinder was open and a rock or something broke this pipe, then it's going. There's nothing stopping it until the tank is empty. So I'd like to see a cover over this thing, but this is a straight do not pass through the regulator connection to the cylinder. Okay, so whatever pressure the cylinders got, it's coming straight to here. And then they let this outside grill be the regulator from the cylinder to here. Okay, now per code, you're supposed to allow only 5 feet before you need a two-stage regulator. It brings it down to 30 PSI. So if this is greater than 5 feet, per DOT, or actually it's not DOT, it's NFPA 1192. If we're greater than 5 feet, we do need I call them little UFOs. If you've got a fifth wheel and you've got cylinders on both sides, you'll see this little UFO looking deal. Just a regulator. That's going to break it down from up to 375 PSI, which is what the tank can deliver, the cylinder can deliver, and it brings down to 30 PSI. So I would like to see, if we're going to come this far with that much pressure, I would like to have seen baby up that way, one of those regulators that brings us down to 30 PSI, because we're definitely over 5 feet. And that's NFPA 1192.5 something. So we're going to go in here. Let's see here. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Which key? Another thing is we'll label the keys. We also have a key-alike system we can put on this thing, so one key does everything. There it is. Okay, so I notice we have some rot in here. Okay. This compartment probably leaked. I don't see any, like maybe when it was new it had like a rubber seal, but it's certainly gone. And so when this was closed, it'd be good to put like a weather sealant, peel back sticky stuff to seal this. But this is like an outside kitchen thing. Okay. So here we have like a stove. And yeah, it would be connected to this, and you have an outside kitchen. So we haven't checked this, but you know, it's the old Coleman stove. I mean, these things are awesome. I kind of had one growing up. And look, here's our little paperwork for it. It's paperwork for the stove, so that's kind of nice. So we need to check this to make sure it works. We'll do this, you know, be a fun little thing we can play with. So we know we have a lot of rot here. It might be good to replace this wood, and maybe the hardware might be fine. Maybe it just needs to be lubricated and tightened up a little bit. And then we have a nice working drawer again. But we do need to secure this get the rotten wood out and put new wood in there. And then when we close this, it would benefit from a nice weather sealant around here. Okay, that way when we close this door, it's not going to be dripping inside, making our work rot again. Okay. All right. Actually, I'm going to leave that open. So I'm looking at this vinyl insert again. It looks good at this end. It was a crack at that end. And then it looks like, yeah, let me get a little screwdriver. So if you can see what I'm doing here, I've just got my finger pulling this up. Okay, so they would have used, that's a silicone. I would not recommend using silicone. I like RV ProFlex. Would not allow me to do that. So that might be where some of the water damage is getting in from here. So we're on a rear cap. I'm going to put the keys right here. I'm going to need them again. We're going to check the lights here in a second. I've got a little device that we make that you can plug into the 7-way and you can check all your lights and everything. So we'll be checking lights. Inside here, fishing rods and marshmallow sticks. A lot of times you can run your sewer pipe in here, but this doesn't have a toilet, so there's no reason for that. License plate looks good. I don't see any cracks on any of this. It's not like it backed into a tree when they were getting into camp. While I'm back here, I'm going to flip these open. Okay. Working our way around. Let me go peek underneath it real quick. Yeah, we've got another leveling jack right here, a hose. There's a freshwater tank underneath, but we understand that that's cracked. A spare tire, a little bit of wire hanging down right there. It looks like the blinker wiring. Doesn't look damaged, just it would be nice if it was tucked up a little bit. I don't see any major rust. The frame looks fantastic. The floor looks good. I don't see any rotten floor components underneath here. Underneath looks really good for a 30-year-old RV. Yeah, there's a hose that's hanging down that looks like it goes to the tank, so that's an issue. We got to clean that up. And when we raise up the RV with doing the brakes and the tires, we'll basically be checking the axles and things like that. But it looks like it is maybe a torsion axle or an axle that's mounted directly to the frame. Okay. Now, we knew going into the deal that the water heater had been removed. Eventually, we're going to be installing a water heater in this, but this is where the water heater was. Notice I said water heater, not hot water heater. All right, let's see what's in. Yes, labeling the keys would be very nice. There we go. Okay. So here, I think I'm just going to leave them unlocked. So this was where the water heater would have been, but apparently when that tank cracked, he put in a new tank. So here we have the short cord. Okay, that's all they give me. Okay, so yeah, all these hoses and stuff, this is the hose that I see hanging down low, and it looks like it's for either filling or draining the freshwater tank. Here's another one. So we'll have to sort out these things, but since we're going to be putting in a water heater, I'm not too hung up on where these hoses go, but I mean, it's pretty simple. It's not complicated. But he's got a freshwater tank here. Anyway, it looks like he's got a little lever that will hold this open. I don't see, it's maybe foamed over, but this lever may have held that open. So this would be short cord, and so it would be good to kind of do an inspection to make sure there's no nicks in this cord. It looks healthy and good. I don't see any problems. Here at the end is where I'd be looking for any melting. Now he's got like an adapter on it. So this RV has never seen a lot of current going through it. So I'm looking for any melting. A lot of times you see melting on the white common, believe it or not. I'm also looking to see if the jacket of the wire has separated from the hood here. And this looks fine. This looks good. And the adapter looks nice and clean. No evidence of heat signature that it got too hot. No problems there. Okay, and so we'll be plugging this in here in a little bit. Moving along, this looks like it might be where we fill up, where to put the keys, in the pocket. Okay. Tangled in with all the lavalier cabling that I've got in my pocket. Knee pads works well too. One thing because we have a pop-up camper that we've enjoyed a lot, and one of the things we found to help stabilization is it's a thing that goes on each wheel, and you just clamp it down. These things work fantastic. We've tried the wheel chucks, we've tried the leveling stabilizers, but these really hold that RV in place. I've even seen people use these on their travel trailers with fifth wheel, so it's really a nice way to just lock that tire down. It helps with the stability of it all. And we have an Amazon. Here's a little shameless commercial. If you go to our website, myreverse.com, and click on those little orange boxes on tools or shops or something, one of those orange boxes will bring you to our Amazon store. And so we've got a lot of that kind of stuff on our Amazon store, and you can get them, and we get like little 2%, and we appreciate that. So if you're going to get them anyway, we got a lot of other stuff in there too, and we're always adding to it. Gotta get my 2%. So we appreciate you guys for supporting us that way. Oh, these keys are going to be madness. They're on this carabiner, and the carabiner's kind of a little bit bigger than the keyhole. Oh, this is going to drive me crazy. There it is. So here, this would be where your fresh water gets filled. Here's where your city water gets filled. This little bumper. And again, I don't see weather sealant, but I would like to see on the bottom maybe some sealant. We're trying to do everything we can to keep the water from getting in. Even this does not have any kind of weather seal. It did at one point, but it's all dry rotted, so we'll be looking at the weather sealant on this. So this is going to be where our fresh water goes, and our city water gets connected. Okay, I'll leave that open. This, did I just put the keys back? Okay, here they are. Nope. Oh my gosh. Today is not the day to play the lottery, because every key I grab is the exact opposite. Here's this feature again. What does he connect to? Anyway, I'm going to worry about that later. Somehow I see where he's rubbing right here. Maybe? I'm going to try that. A nice storage compartment. This is one you can gain access to from the either side. So wheel chocks, things like that might go here. Garden hoses. You figure out what goes here. But anyway, it looks good. And again, I'd like to see a little bit more weather sealant right there. That would be really nice to see that. But I don't see any body damage and everything looks good. Okay. And then that brings us back to the front. Now we don't have that vinyl insert on this side because we don't have the strip for the awning. What I have seen a lot of people do is they'll put an awning on both sides of their RV, and so maybe where you're camping, the sun's just cooking this side, so they put an awning on one side. So I've seen a lot of people have awnings on both sides. So we are going to reseal the cap, and now what I want to do before we go inside, let's check the lighting, because once we open up the hood and pull this out, we're going to lose access to all this conveniently. So let me go get a little gadget to connect to our 7-way and check all of our OEM lighting. Okay, so when I became an RV technician in 2011, we would get RVs that would come into my bay because people had wired their 7-way incorrectly. There are two standards to wire their 7-way, and the circuits land on the same pins, but the color of the wire changes. So for example, green on one is left turn, green on the other is like, well, brown for example, brown on one is left turn, brown on the other is like marker lights. So you would have people turn on their left blinker and their marker lights would blink. And so I seem to be getting a lot of those types of jobs. So in the early days, I made this big, ugly, I just made it for myself. It was just for me to work on. So I put a little, my whole background is industrial automation. So I put a little programmable relay in there, okay? And then that relay gave me a 7-way out. Anyway, this isn't a commercial for that, but this is a tool that our sister company, T3 Interface, is making. We are in the process of making this. If you've watched one of my other videos about the 2-second on-off test tool, this is that tool. And so I made it so I can get an auxiliary battery on it if I don't get battery. So right now I'm looking at the screen. The screen is off right now. Because remember in the beginning, the green wire fell off. So I am connected to the 7-way. And what I'm gonna be able to do is check all my lights, manually control lights at will, or run all lights on, or what I call a light show. The light show would be like they're blinking in a very repetitive pattern, so I can walk around. And then here's this switch is my electric brake switch, 2 seconds on, 2 seconds off. So I'm going through this, but like I said, this thing's big and bulky and I would never want to sell this one. So we are making these things much, much smoother, much more sexier with a lot more features. So just keep an eye out for our, on our T3 Interface website, or even on our website where Darren's tools, he makes them. This is one of my early ones. So I'm using this to check all the lights. And so this thing has been used hundreds and hundreds of times on PDIs and it works great. And all the guys that I work with in the shop, like they wanted me to make one for them. And I'm like, well, here, just use mine. And so now I'm making them for everybody. But so it looks like we got to get power to this. Let's see here. Our green wire broke. And so let's just build that real quick. Let's see here. I'm going to grab a connector here. Okay. All right. And since we're just roughing it and we're not going anywhere, I'm just going to kind of screw that down to there. Okay, still have no signal. So I do have a light on here telling me I have auxiliary, but apparently it's not feeding this. So therefore I need to give this power directly, because through the wiring of this, that is to say when I'm connected to my tow vehicle, I should be charging my battery. So therefore, one of these wires coming from my 7-way should also be connected. So the way I designed this is if I've got 12 volts connected to the tow vehicle and everything, then I've got 12 volts on one of these wires, and that would turn this on. But since this is not on, then the wire that I need, the battery wire, the battery charge wire, is not on. It's not connected, and I get that because these wires don't know where they go. So what I'm going to do when I design this, I design it so I can give it my own known good power. So another product that T3 Interface makes is what we call our test lead set. And so I'll get this set up real quick. The thing I like about the test lead is I can kind of accessorize it at will. I can make this be many different things as I need it to be. So here, I'm going to make it become, I'm going to pull off that battery to feed this thing. There we go. Okay, so now that's hot. And I have a screen. Okay, so now I'm gonna just do all on, and we're gonna see our lights turn on. And what I'm gonna do is just walk around and look for burned out light bulbs. Okay, so let's just walk around. We'll start here. This light's on. Happy to see. I've got a side marker. I've got the one here. I've got a brake light. I've got a side marker. Okay, working our way around, and I've got a side marker. Okay, so all of our lights are working, and so now what I'm going to do is I want to make sure that left is left and right is right. So I'm going to do left blinker, and we're going to just go to the back to make sure that left is working. It should be over there. Okay, if you just want to stay back here, you'll see me up there. Left is blinking, so we know that the wiring is good. Okay, and so now I'm going to do right blinker. We got a right blinker. Nothing on the right. Okay, so I've got a right blinker and no right blinker, but okay, so now I'm gonna do marker lights. Okay, these should be just running lights. Okay, so our headlights are on, we're going on the highway, we have running lights. So we have running lights. So now that feature that I said was the light show, now we'll see the light show. So we had a left blinker. Let me try brake lights. Let's see what brake lights does. That should be brake lights, only on the left side. Okay, so it looks like we might have a burned out bulb. Okay, so now we do the light show feature, and it'll do left, 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 right, 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 marker, 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 I think, and brake, 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 but we'll see. And there's a pause between the cycle. So let's put on the light show. Okay, they're gonna start blinking around in a pattern. So let's see, when I get back here, it looks like marker, okay, pause. Left, left, left. I should see right, right, right. So we got a problem with our right blinker, don't we? And then I want brakes, 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 and then marker lights, marker lights, marker lights. Okay, so from our inspection, we have a problem. Either it's a bulb that's bad or the circuit's bad. But when we did all, I remember this guy being bright. So I'm suspicious if it's corrosion in the socket or something. So let's go back to all again. I'm gonna go back to all. Okay, all lights should be on, steady. So that makes me very curious. It's working there. So I'm gonna write that up, and we're gonna have to dive a little bit deeper because it's working bright and dim. It's a 5711, so it's a double element bulb. That's interesting. Could be a wire short. Let me just try right blinker all by itself, because the bulb is turning on right blinker. But see, this is where this, what I call the RV light show, comes in handy. So I'm going to go to manual mode, and I'm going to do right blinker. Do I have a right blinker? Left is blinking? Oh, hold on. There. Right's blinking? And the way I designed this, it was right was a fast blink and left was a slow blink. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so we got some weird wiring going on here, because it should be this one blinking. So that's right blinker. Let me go to left blinker. So Tricia, now you see the RV light show in action. You see what it finds? It finds these things. If you did not have the way to just at will, I want this, you're banging your head against the wall. So that's right blinker. Let's go left blinker. It should be a slow blink versus a fast blink. And that is in fact a blinker. So with this gadget, I'm gonna mark this up. There's something going on in here. We'll go deeper using the RV light show. Like I said, that's my early prototype beta test thing. I love it. I loved it so much. You just saw how it just real quickly found this. And I'm not plugged into a truck or anything. And at will, I can flip switches and stuff like that. And it also has the brake, the 2-second on-off thing built into it. So let me do right blinker one more time. I'll tell you, let me do brake lights. There's brake lights. So I'm curious to see what happens there. Okay, so there's something weird here. I think we all agree. But one of the things we could do, we could make the wiring on the 7-way so that left is left, right is right, brakes and markers, but we can make that auxiliary light circuit a backup light. So when the backup turns on in the tow vehicle, the backup lights were on here, so you're backing into your bay. So we can wire it that way. So that's interesting. So in our inspection, we found there's something wrong with the lights. So I'll write that on my form, and we have a problem here. Okay. So we can come back around here. And so this is what I was doing. This knob is loose. I'm just basically flipping the toggle switches is all I'm doing. So here's the brake test. And I should, normally what I like to do is jack up the wheel and spin the tire and it'll lock itself up. But I can hear a click, on a very audible click sometimes. You can hear an audible click in here. Nope, not on this one. Another thing you can do is get a putty knife and hold the putty knife to the back of the drum, and it'll magnetize for just that 2 seconds. So right now I'm sitting 2 seconds to the brake and 2 seconds off, 2 seconds on, 2 seconds off. Another thing you could do is take a meter and you could read the current coming to the brake. You should get around you should get about 6 amps. Let's see what we get on that. Let's get a meter. This is just for funsies. I'm gonna see. I'm going to say there's something wrong with the brakes because I'm not getting any current coming out of this battery going to those brakes. Normally you would expect to get something drawing out of the battery. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I got 4.8. So Sid, come see this. So you can see this is the current going to the brakes to 0. Now I'm building up 4.7 off. So this is a 2 seconds on, 2 seconds off. So we are sending current through this wire out to the brakes. And the brakes are giving me the correct reading that I expect to see. If there was no brakes on this, then I would not be consuming any of this current. It would just be this thing would just be clicking. But since I'm reading current, the wire's going somewhere. We're consuming that current somehow, some way. So we will do, since we're gonna be taking the wheels off and doing all that, we'll be checking that then. So we'll take the brake check off. And so there was the very early version of the RV Light Show. And like I said, the ones we're coming out with now are super sexy. But you also saw how I was able to rather quickly make the harness that I needed using the test lead set. And this test lead set is used multiple ways all the time. I don't think a day goes by I'm in the field doing on something and I'm not diagnosing something and I needed this connector, that connector, and you could buy the Fluke Master set, but half of those I don't even need. And so I built this to be only the ones that I need. And so there's your commercial for the test lead set. And the light show, it's not out yet. It's coming, it's close. So we'll put that back and we'll just leave all the wiring connected. I just put a waggle connector on it and I just put the screw under the prong. It's good enough for our purposes. I would not send it down the road this way. Okay, so that concludes the outside. So we know we need to do breakaway. We know there's something wrong with this. The cylinder's got 3 more years on it. The battery, I'm giving it a B+. We need a new regulator. We need to replace the wiper seal. There's something going on with the right rear breaker. We found some rot areas. All the door hatches need weather sealant, okay? And we need to reseal the roof, peel off all this old crap and put new stuff down. So that's where we're at with this. The frame looks good. I would like to pop down the little landing legs and exercise those, but I've crawled underneath this thing and it's no better, it's no worse than this, which is fine. I've got a sandblaster in the shop. If you wanted to, you could sandblast this back down to the base and paint it, make it look pretty. And maybe we'll do that, we'll see. Okay, did I leave you wanting more? So we're gonna stop right here and break this video up into 2 parts. So this is going to be our stopping point. So meet us on part 2, where we're going to go into all the inside features and all the things that Darren might look at. On the inside feature, we're going to do an LP pressure test. We're going to look at a couple different things on the inside of the RV. So let's stop this video here and let's meet you over on part 2, and that's where we're going to jump in and play with more on popping. All right, thanks for watching, guys.